Okay, I just want to pick out a few verses from Revelation 13, and we did look at Revelation last time in a bit more detail, so I won't go over it again, but these will be some areas which didn't get looked at previously. Revelation 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. First of all, you will see that John is standing on the sand of the sea, and I would take that to be a reference that he's back on the earth, back on the Isle of Patmos, and at the end of chapter 10, he was told to prophesy again before many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. So even in his old age, his work isn't finished, and that should be a good plug to put out to those that are up in years to keep on going, and those that are young in years to double your efforts. There's much work to be done if you're a Christian, and don't just think that you've done this, you've done that, and therefore you don't need to do any more. You were told to be ready in season and out of season, and there's always work to be done for the Lord. And if you want some ideas or tips, then drop us a line and we'll be happy to share them with you. This beast coming out of the sea, according to Isaiah 27 verse 1, again scripture with scripture, and it says, "In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea." Clearly the beast coming out of the sea, I would cross-reference that to Isaiah and have it as being the dragon. And of course the dragon, according to verse 4 of Revelation 13, is Satan. The beast coming out of the sea isn't going to be human, although he'll have a human body and people will be able to see him and speak to him, but he will be supernatural. He's going to be controlled by the devil. He'll be the devil's incarnate man on the earth, and he'll be completely possessed by the devil. In reality, he will be Satan with a human body. A lot of people think that Judas Iscariot has a part to play in this, but I don't. That's not to say he doesn't play any part whatsoever in eschatology, but I don't have him coming up out of the sea. Just want to add a footnote before I go on. Reformed Christians take the position that the office of the papacy is the Antichrist. But for that to fit with Revelation 13, they would have to then argue that the popes that we've had about 260, plus if you go with the Catholic Church's count, and I severely dispute that. There are many times when the popes weren't even counted, but let's say you had a couple of hundred, just for argument's sake. Would they then be saying that all of these popes were not human, were demonic? I'd never heard that, but they'd have to go down that road. According to 13:1, I would say that the popes are false prophets, according to verse 11, and there's still a future false prophet. And some Catholic mystics believe that the pope after this pope will be Peter II, and this Peter II, they claim, will be the last pope, an anti-pope. That's just Catholic mysticism, but nonetheless I thought it might be worth sharing it with you. I will say this though, that the papacy is certainly the biggest type of Antichrist in post-apostolic days, no doubt whatsoever about that. But to say that the popes themselves be the man of sin is problematic, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We've got to remember when reading this book, this is a Jewish book. The Jews are the people of the Lord. Paul says they may be enemies for our sake, but they are beloved for the Father's sake. And because we live in an age now where Gentiles pretty much dominate the so-called Christian world, Christendom, we've lost sight that this is a Jewish book, and the Jews are not going to take a Gentile as their long-awaited Messiah. Go to John 5:43, Jesus speaking, "I am come in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive." The Jews are going to receive a future Messiah, and he won't be Jesus Christ, unfortunately for them, but he will be the man of sin, the Antichrist. the Muslims will receive the 12th Imam, they think, but of course it will be the Antichrist, and the Buddhists, the Maitreya, and any other group which you may want to consider. I would say that the Antichrist will cater for everybody. He will usher in world peace, and CND and all the left-wing pressure groups and the climate change people and everything is okay people, they're going to think this is wonderful. At last we've got peace. But Paul says then sudden destruction comes, so let's not even go down that road for now. Go to Daniel 11, and we need to understand that the Lord has given us many clear scriptures and some not so clear, but the man of sin is actually found many times throughout the Bible. Look at verse 36, Daniel 11:36, and the king, called a king here, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, lowercase g, and shall speak marvellous things against the God, capital G, of gods, lowercase g, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. 37, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, capital G, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. Just want to stop there and say a few things. This bit of scripture says that he will not regard the God of his fathers, and that is capital G. This for me is probably the clearest indication that the Antichrist is going to be a Jew, and he's not going to regard the God of his fathers. He won't desire women either, and the Reformed crowd, the people who believe that the office of the papacy is the Antichrist, take this to be proof that the position of the papacy is found here, because priests officially are not allowed to be married. Of course, many are married at all different levels, from the papacy down to the parish priest, and the flip side to that is that a lot of priests are also homosexual around the world, so there is some credibility in that. But also on the Islamic side, people have said that this could be a reference to Muhammad, because he didn't desire women, and because they use some of the newer Bibles where G is lowercase g, they can move it to Allah, the moon god. But if you let the text speak for itself, and I'm using the King James here, you will see that it is a reference to a Jewish person who doesn't refer to the God of his fathers. I remember a priest that we met on the street telling us that he thought that Muhammad was the Antichrist, rather interestingly. And I said to him, would you like to go on record and say that? He said, absolutely not. And I said to him, before he scarpered off, that his Pope wouldn't have agreed with him, and his Pope, and I'm thinking of John Paul II, because it was a few years ago when he spoke to this priest, I said, your Pope kissed the Quran, and he wouldn't think that Muhammad was the Antichrist, but you think he was. That was interesting. Luther actually said that Muhammad was the firstborn of Satan, and of course he held to the office of the papacy, being the Antichrist also. Just a couple more verses to look at. In the 13th of Revelation 15, and we find the unholy Trinity are still very much in power here, and it says here, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, very much like Nebuchadnezzar. 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Right, a couple more things I want to say. I'm going to close this clip. If you want to go down the Reformed route, that the office of the papacy is the Antichrist, then what is this reference to of right hands and marks on the foreheads? Up to the last 10, 20, 30 years, nobody was chipped in this country or in any country of the world. Now, everyone's being chipped. Even members of the royal family, we're told, are chipped. Also, we have people living around the world that are not religious whatsoever, and they're able to buy and sell and live pretty happily, and there's no restrictions on them. And I go back to my overall theme of this video: if you're not a futurist, what are you? If you want to become a historicist, then how do you exegete these scriptures? I'm sure you got some responses for me on that, but I just go back to the original mindset that I have here, that this has to be a reference to a future event, and I've yet to see anything that I've read or seen since I've been saved to explain Revelation any other way